we need to spend hours reviewing carefully how those ballots got there. But we can tell you that it appears to be an aberration from how the other ballots were handled in that room throughout that day. So that's the gist of it. Do you have any questions?
Do we know about how many ballots would go in each one of those suitcases?
So we have a witness who says that inside the suitcases, she estimates that about 6,000 ballots can fit in there.
And there were how many that were taken out?
We don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Parent.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. We heard from the Secretary of State's office earlier, just a couple hours ago, that they've investigated this repeatedly, that they had a monitor on site the entire time. And frankly, this has been debunked for weeks by our Secretary of State's office.
I doubt he's seen the video.
Evidence, then I think the courts will probably be able to handle this once you present your evidence to them. And according to the law of the state of Georgia, we do not have the power to submit alternate electors. The provision in the law is quite clear at 21-501F.
Is there a question?
Senator, we'll ask questions. We'll have a time for statements at the conclusion. If we
Yeah, my question is, the question is, since this has been debunked repeatedly, what evidence can you give to us that counters what our elections officials have presented us with only an hour ago?
You just saw it. Your officials need to watch the video.
What about the fact that they say that they had a monitor there the entire time?
I can't speak for them.
Well, thank you.
They did not have the video.
They said they had a monitor the whole time. Be quiet.
You're
Okay.
looking at the room.
There's no Secretary of State.
Then maybe we should invite them back in.
All right. Well, we may need to do that. Senator Gooch.
Maybe a question for Senator Parent. I heard you say several times this has been debunked, but
sir.
I also just heard that this video just appeared last night. So how could it have been debunked?
Well, my response, not being an expert, is that these very allegations came up right away after the election, almost a month ago, and have been repeatedly discussed by the Secretary of State's office, including everything that we're seeing here.
But is this
And
not
there have
the-
been explanations for all of it.
Is this not the first time
Well-
this video has been shown?
I believe that this is the
Yes.
first time this video has been
Yes.
seen.
And
It
the
is.
news- And
That's
the news
correct.
media hasn't seen this video or have not?
They have
put it
not.
out? They have
That's
not.
right.
Was there another question?
And just for the record, we did not receive this video until late last night, and we were reviewing it in the middle of
The night last night, so we're still reviewing it. There's still a lot more to review.
So there's a lot of fraud that even the Attorney General of the United States has not found? I'm confused. I'm sorry. And
Well,
that's it out of me.
you went back to the very first point you made. There doesn't have to be evidence of fraud, although I think there's rampant evidence of fraud, as you've been hearing all day today. The mere violation of your state statutes is sufficient for this to be an invalid election and to return the power to determine the manner of choosing electors to this body.
Thank you.
I just leave you with what the professor said. This is a terrible, terrible constitutional crisis we're in. You're not the only state affected this way. There are some with more evidence of fraud than you have. There are some with less. But from what I heard today, if you had hearings and made findings of fact, there's overwhelming proof of fraud. It depends on you, and it depends on your determination of credibility. You look at the ridiculous rejection rate. In 2016, you had 199,000 votes, mail-in votes, 6.4% rejection rate. 2020, you had 1,320,000, and you had no rejection, none, 0.2%. I mean, that can't be possible, except if the testimony those witnesses gave is true, that they weren't allowing Republicans to do their duty, and that constitutes fraud. You're putting ballots in that easily could be tampered with. You have 123,725 statistically invalid votes, according to Professor Ramsted's analysis. You have 96,600 votes that were mailed in, that were cast, put in the ballot box 96,660 votes that you voted for which there's no response, none, zero. It doesn't attach to anything. When you look at that rejection rate, and when you look at what you saw on the video, which to me was a smoking gun, powerful smoking gun, well, I don't have to be a genius to figure out what happened. And I don't have to be a genius to figure out that those votes are not legitimate votes. You don't put legitimate votes under a table.
No.
Wait until you throw the opposition out, and in the middle of the night, count them. We would have to be fools to think that. So no need to push it any further, but there's more than ample evidence to conclude that this election was a sham. It was an embarrassment to the citizens of your state.
Yes, it was.
And it's not the only one. And not my place to confuse it anymore, but in my view, it was part of a concerted plan, because certain cities were picked in order to carry this out where they thought they could get away with it. They didn't do it everywhere. It's not accidental that they picked Detroit and Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and Milwaukee and Phoenix, Arizona, and Las Vegas, Nevada. What do they all have in common? They're controlled by one political party. Some of them have been controlled by that political party for 60 years, and they have records of criminal corruption indictments as long as my arm, and some of them have quite long records for voter fraud. So this was a carefully selected thing they did here. And the one thing common to it all is the mail ballot. Keep the Republicans away from seeing the mail ballot. If they were not fooling around with that mail ballot, then exactly why were they putting us in corrals in Philadelphia or in Pittsburgh? Why were they keeping Republicans away from ballots here? Why were they counting them in the middle of the night if there was nothing wrong with them? You would think they'd want to show them to us.
Exactly.
I think it's clear.